Welcome to the Power Logging, Telo's last live event of the series Shall We Call Power of the Scary Beast? A series designed to launch the collection too, a collection indeed of some of our Primo Piano Scala C interviews. Today our guest is Theodoros Koutroubas, a professor of political science at the Catholic University of Leuven and a key contributor of the collection too, and with whom Marco Sozzini and I will talk about the power lobbying.
Mariela, and thank you for this kind invitation, which I appreciate very much. It is not very often that the bad guys, lobbyists, are having the opportunity to express their opinion. So I hope that your viewers are going to see me less than a monster and more than an academic who represents interests, which is a basic democratic right and obligation.
We often hear in the public debate sentences like, the lobbies have won. And this sentence is very often used to explain or maybe to justify the inability of politicians or government officials to actually take decisions and to implement their own political agenda. So I would like to ask you if in your view, there is any truth in this, or in other words, to what extent do you think market operators can actually stand in the way of decision makers?
To begin with, the lobbies have won, or the decision was not possible because the lobbies have put a huge pressure, is a little bit close to the conspiracy theories we're listening every day about how the world is run by occult powers that are beyond our realm, and we cannot do anything to contradict them. This is pure fiction. Obviously, people forget that a trade union is a lobby, that the right to go on strike is a right guaranteed by the constitutions, that obviously in democracy the press can be used as a means to, let's say, support ideas or support causes. And all this is legitimate because this is the normal debate that any society must have before acting legislatively.
Yet there is hardly any agreement on what regulating lobbying actually means. And so far, the effort to regulate our sector in Italy has only produced so-called registers for lobbyists, which we find quite disappointing because in our view, registers do not address the real issues at stake.
Personally, I think that the first thing one needs to do, if one needs to regulate the activity of lobbying, is to regulate the decision maker. One needs to regulate the most important part of the equation, and the most important part of the equation is definitely not lobbyists. What about regulating the parliamentarian? What about imposing to the parliamentarian to give a report every month on who she or he has met with? I have no objection whatsoever that a parliamentarian reports that this month I have had lunch with Professor Koutroubas 3 times. And I think this would be great for the public to know that their parliamentarian has got as much information as possible from all the stakeholders before taking a decision. My activities are by definition known. It is by definition known that I represent the liberal professions. It is not something secret. It is out there in the open. We must make clear when we communicate that corruption is a crime punishable by law. It has nothing to do with lobbying. It's as if somebody says that driving and hitting somebody with a car are the same things. Hitting somebody with a car intentionally is a criminal activity, and even unintentionally, it is punishable by law. Driving is right, and in fact, it facilitates life.
Those who blame lobbies assume that if you pursue your particular interest, you do so at the expense of the common good. But does common good really exist? Or are there always particular interests at stake?
I am from Greece, Mariella. When I was still 4, we had a dictatorship which was telling us that for our common good, we should not have elections and we should have the tanks in the street. Every dictatorship in the world is working on this common good. Well, in democracy, the common good is the fruit of an ongoing, never-ending negotiation between the individual goods of every citizen. There is no common good written in the stars or in any holy book or in the mind of any auto-declared savior of the country. Women didn't have the right to vote, and this was for the common good. It was indecent. A woman's position was at home, and she had to trust her husband, her brother, or her father. And the lobby of women, without money, made a tremendous effort. Lobby also helps evolving mentalities. Look, our fellow citizens who are members of the LGBT group. They were eligible for prison some years ago, and now they can live their lives happily. Conceptions about their common good are changing, and credit should be given to lobbying.
Not all members of parliament are re-elected. Not all elected officials are always re-elected. And this brings us to the very hotly contested topic of revolving doors. Do you think that a fair and effective legislation on lobbying should also address this aspect of making sure that elected officials don't turn themselves into lobbyists the day after the election if they are not re-elected?
There are such laws already. At the European level, the laws relating to revolving doors have been reviewed after the Barroso incident, and they are now more strict. And this is a good thing, but I must remind you that revolving doors is not a phenomenon that has only negative aspects. Revolving doors is a phenomenon that also has positive aspects, because by integrating the private sphere, former decision makers are better helping the private sphere to understand how things are being done in the public sphere, and vice versa. By becoming elected officials, former lobbyists, former people who were working in the corporative are helping the public sphere to understand how the private works.
Well, now it's time for us to wrap up. And thank you so much for sharing with us not only your academic views, but some real life experience of your lobby work as a director of the European Council for Liberal Profession, adding a good deal of substance to our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me this great opportunity.